data that I will be using to help you explain SUMIFS and COUNTIFS function. And in this data, you can see that we have the months, products, regions, and the sale amount. And what we will be doing is to test this data for total sales for the following criteria. Like we will be determining that how much sales we get in the month of January. In the next, we want to find out the sales in the February and the specific product. And then in the third analysis, we will be learning to use the three criteria at the same time. And similarly, after understanding the SUMIFS function, we will move towards the COUNTIFS function. Now you can see that our first analysis to get the total sales for the month of January, and as you can see that it's a single criteria, so it's mean we can either use the SUMIFS function or SUMIF function. So to better explain the difference, I will rather use the SUMIF function first so that we can later compare these two functions. So here in this cell, I will write equal SUMIF, and here in this syntax, you can see that we have the range, criteria, and the sum range. And now because the sum range is present in the last, the first range is actually the criteria range. So because we are interested in calculating the total sales for the January, so the criteria range will be months. So I will select all these months. Next is the criteria. So this month is actually the criteria. I will select this month. And the next thing is the sum range. So sum range is the sales amount. I'll go to the first cell and then I can click Ctrl Shift down arrow. So after selecting all these things, I will close this bracket and press enter. You can see that now if I check the sale for the month of January, and it sums up to this value. So it seems correct. Now the second analysis is to get the sales of the February and only for the one product, that is monitor. So it means that now we are having two criteria, and if we have more than one criteria, then we have to use the SUMIFS function. So here I will write equal SUMIFS. Now in this syntax, you can see that we have the sum range at the start, and then we have the criteria ranges and the criteria, because we don't know that how many criteria we will be using. And I personally recommend you to use the SUMIFS function rather than using the SUMIF function because it's more flexible to use. First, I will go to this sales amount and give the sum range. After this, I'll put comma. And the next I need to provide is the criteria range 1. And the criteria range is the months. So I'll go to this column, Ctrl Shift down to select the criteria range 1. And next I have to give the criteria, that is month. I have written in this cell. Again comma. The next criteria range is the product. So I'll go to this column and select it by clicking Ctrl Shift down arrow, and then I have to provide the second criteria, that is the monitor. And after selecting this, I will close this bracket and press enter. So now in the month of February, it is only giving the sale of the monitor. That is the sum of these two cells. Similarly, I can use it up to 3 criteria, and I can add to the criteria up to 29 criteria in a single go. So here I will write equal SUMIFS. So first I will select the sum range. Next is to select the criteria range 1. And the first criteria. After this, the criteria range 2. So the products are our second criteria. So the criteria range will be these products. And the second criteria is the product. So I will select this. Next is the third criteria range. So I will select all these regions, and the third criteria is given in this cell. So here in this syntax of the formula, you can see that we have the sum range at the start, and after this we have the criteria ranges and the criteria in a sequence way. Once we put all these conditions, I just need to press enter, and now you can see that I get the sale in the month of January for laptop only in the region of North. So it's mean it is giving me this information and this information, and if I add 25,000 to 23,000, it is 48,000. So it seems correct. Now moving towards the COUNTIFS function. So contrary to SUMIFS, it will just give me the number of entries in a specific criteria. So for example, for the month of January, if I want to find the total number of product that I sold in the month of January, so here in this cell I will use COUNTIF. Because it's a single condition, so I will only use the COUNTIF function. So first I have to give the range. After this I have to provide the criteria. So this is the criteria. We don't need the sum range, so there is nothing about the sum range. It will only give the number of entries for the month of January in this dataset. When I press enter, it gives me the answer 5. It means in my dataset I have 5 entries for the month of January. Now if I add another criteria that I am interested in knowing that how many laptops are sold in the month of January, then I will use this formula as equal COUNTIFS, and here I need to provide the criteria range 1, that is the months, and after this I need to provide the first criteria, that is January. After this I need to provide the criteria range 2, that are the products, so I am going to provide the range, and after this I will provide the second criteria, that is the laptop. After this I will close this bracket and press enter. So in the month of January we have these 3 sales for the laptop, and similarly I can also add a third criteria. So I will write equal COUNTIFS and provide the criteria range 1, first criteria, next is criteria range 2 and the second criteria, and after this criteria range 3 and the third criteria. After selecting all the criteria ranges and criterias, I am going to close this bracket and press enter. So we have the sales of laptop in North region for the month of January 2, that is the first one and this one. That's how you can use SUMIFS and COUNTIFS to make your data analysis faster and more efficient. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more Excel tips and tricks. See you in the next video.